and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Well, 2008 is going to repeat itself again. Things are just so big, they can't be allowed to fail. It's too huge. You can't hold it in both your hands. That's what she said. So, what am I talking about? Here we go. Here we go, folks. More madness and insanity. More madness. First Republic Bank seized by U.S. regulators. The struggling lender will be acquired by J.P. Morgan. What could go wrong? The California Financial Watchdog said. The embattled First Republic Bank has been taken over by regulators and will be sold to J.P. Morgan Chase. The California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation announced on Monday. Sounds like a load of goddamn crap to me. Earlier this week, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC, a principal federal regulator of U.S. financial institutions, asked a number of banks to submit bids for the struggling lender in an effort to secure a buyer before it ended receivership. A deadline for bids was set for Sunday. J.P. Morgan, America's biggest bank, will assume all deposits, including all uninsured deposits and substantially all assets of First Republic, according to a statement issued by the California regulator. This, my friends, is how eventually we lead to a huge implosion. How everything just collapses in on itself, and we're going to be under one large institution. And the thing is, folks, the people who caused the 2008 economic collapse are still out there dancing and farting along, drinking and eating while the rest of us struggle. If you can't see this being an epic failure down the road, I don't know what else to tell you. Now, the DFPI, as I mentioned before, the DFPI, what is that again? Department of Financial Protection and Innovation from California, has appointed Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation as receiver of San Francisco-based bank, the total assets of which amounted to nearly $229.1 billion as of April 13th, 2023, while its total deposits totaled some $103.9 billion. Deposits are federally insured by the FDIC, subject to applicable limits, the statement read. Last week, a massive sell-off wiped out 75% of the bank's stock value following a disclosure that it had lost more than $100 billion of deposits. Now, here's the thing I find really interesting about that massive sell-off. Some of our also fantastic, lovely politicians in the Democratic Party and Republican Party were part of that. Rokana! Oh, I'm sorry. How completely unprofessional. I should never have coughed that. Rokana. Oh, my goodness. What was that? Whew, I'm sorry. It almost sounded like I said the name Rokana. What does he have to do with any of this? The San Francisco-based lender has struggled to stay afloat since the U.S. banking sector was hit by a major crisis. The seizure and pending sale of First Republic Bank make it the third U.S. lender to fail after the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank in March. Both were shut down by regulators following massive bank runs. I wonder if there were any U.S. politicians that were in the know about this too. It's not like this is a repeating cycle where our politicians have some information ahead of time. Now, our politicians are not as smart as they think they are. Now, they're kind of clever, but they're not smart because we know what they're doing. They have people or friends or maybe brokers or third-party groups handling their finances. And they're like, oh, wow, I honestly didn't know that this was happening. I am shocked. It's a good thing I made a good killing and I didn't get hurt by this. We've talked about this before. In March, leading U.S. financial institutions agreed a $30 billion injection for the troubled regional lender. Shares of First Republic are down 97% this year. Now, again, let's talk about public banking. This is a recent video from Case Study QB. Please be sure to follow him on Twitter. He is wrongly being censored. He also has his own original YouTube channel and Odyssey page as well. What could possibly go wrong?
JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon says the banking crisis should be pretty much, his words, resolved now that his...
Pretty much resolved. Let's have democracy in the chat. You think the banking crisis has been resolved? Type 1 was like, yes, Kit, stop panicking. The banking crisis is fine. Why don't you go out to brunch and stop complaining? Jeez Louise, you complain too much. Type 2, like, oh my God, it's really all going to burn on down. It's going to collapse. Can't you see, you fools?
His bank has purchased First Republic, most of their assets. He made that comment yesterday during a call with analysts and journalists after his bank won the bidding to buy First Republic. It means JP Morgan Chase, America's biggest bank.
Hold on real quick, and I'm going to rewind this, but I want to acknowledge somebody in the chat. Roger Meadows says, Captain Kit. Well, thank you so much for giving me that rank, but I wasn't an officer. Sergeant Kit is better. Send in the Marines to rescue. Don't worry, I'll send in the Adapters to start us. We'll do a whole purging. The Emperor protects.
Banking crisis should be pretty much, his words, resolved now that his bank has purchased First Republic, most of their assets. He made that comment yesterday during a call with analysts and journalists after his bank won the bidding to buy First Republic. It means JP Morgan Chase, America's biggest bank, is now even bigger. Senator Elizabeth Warren is not happy about that. She tweeted,
"Oh, dig this. The failure of First Republic Bank shows how deregulation has made the too big to fail problem even worse." Well, gee, Warren, what are you going to do about it? Just tweet about it? Fine. Fine. Go ahead. Tweet.
The failure of First Republic Bank shows how deregulation has made the too big to fail problem even worse. A poorly supervised bank was snapped up by an even bigger bank. Ultimately, taxpayers will be on the hook. Congress needs to make major reforms to fix a broken banking system. But listen to this. This is how Diamond defended this purchase.
We need large, successful banks in the largest and most prosperous economy in the world. We have capability to help our clients, who happen to be cities, schools, states, hospitals, governments. We bank countries, we bank the IMF, we bank the World Bank. You need large, successful banks. And anyone who thinks that it would be good for the United States of America not to have that should call me directly.
All right, Roger Meadows, listen. Here's your homework assignment, buddy. You need to call up Jamie Dimon right away and give him a piece of your mind, all right? That's your homework assignment. So, okay. Throughout human history, there have been very large institutions. And listen, to be clear, there was a point where they were successful and very powerful. But the old saying goes, everything that has a beginning does have an end. Nothing is truly immortal. Nothing can last forever. All things do fall. All things do collapse. We all do pass away. Making a pretty bold statement there, Jamie Dimon. If I had to compare this statement to anything, it's to the people who said the Titanic is an unsinkable ship. Don't worry, the Titanic didn't sink, did it? Oh, yeah. Oh, guess what? It did.
So they could talk. It'd actually be a fascinating joint interview as we bring in our chief business correspondent, Christine Roman's anchor early, start to have Jamie Dimon and Elizabeth Warren talk about these things, because there's a lot there. What do you make of that?
Well, look, he and that bank were able to come in and solve what could have been a chaotic problem in the American banking system because they are big and prosperous.
I'm sorry, she walked right into that. That's what she said. That's unprofessional. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hey, look, I'm starting your morning off right and righteously angry. Okay, so while you're going into work, you deserve to laugh. Yes, you deserve to get angry, but we're gonna play that again because she walked into that one. I'm sorry. I had to say something.
Look, he and that bank were able to come in and solve what could have been a chaotic problem in the American banking system because they are big and prosperous.
I should be better. I really should, but I'm not.
And so that's the double-edged sword here. The big banks get bigger. JP Morgan Chase is a mega bank, and it is much bigger, twice as big as it was after 2009. And so there's this concern that you've got fewer banks today than you had 20 years ago. I think half as many FDIC guaranteed institutions today as a decade ago, and the big remaining ones are a lot bigger. And so that's spun up a little bit of.
Interesting point up brought in the live stream chat here too from Big Mr. Fireberg, who says, if they are so prosperous, why did they need public money? That's a very good question. And hey, look, 2009 to 2022. Huh. Look at these three banks: J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citi. Huh? They just kept on getting bigger and bigger, right? It's not like they'll ever collapse, right?
Controversy from progressives in particular, but also maybe some discomfort, maybe in the White House. This is what the Wall Street Journal, as you pointed out earlier, said. J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon rides to Biden's rescue. This is an editorial in the paper today. Jamie Dimon must be smiling at the political irony. The Biden administration, which claims to hate big banks, according to the Journal editorial board.
Oh, hey, vote blue no matter who. Your most pro-union working class president. The guy who is going to protect the woman's right to choose. It's now letting the banks do whatever they want. It's almost as if Biden was talking out of his wazoo, the senile old goat. I've been getting this pushback a lot, especially from people who are, I guess, in the left or in the Democratic Party or something like that. Kit, you're so critical of the Democrats because I know what to expect from Republican lawmakers. You want to watch a show that's going to insult Republican lawmakers? Go watch TYT. Go watch TYT. Okay. I mean, yes, we will be critical of Republican lawmakers, but what can I say that hasn't been said already? Seriously. We all know what to expect. In fact, I find it refreshing when they gave me when the Republicans politicians give me the middle finger. I can look at that and say, that's transparent. Thank you. I know where I stand with you.
Signed off Monday on a deal to let Mr. Dimon's giant J.P. Morgan Chase get bigger and even more profitable. So in a way, a big profitable bank was able to help stem the bleeding in the American financial system because it is so big, but then gets bigger in the process.
Well, and they do stand to profit from this. Sure. And I think it's also how regulators view them. They see them as like the adults in the room, essentially.
The adults in the room. There you go. Corporate media. They'll never lie to you.
And the New York Times writes today, they say whether some banks have become too big to fail, partly because regulators have allowed or even encouraged them to acquire these smaller financial institutions. Just a matter of not just what the practice happens when push comes to shove, but also how progressives on Capitol Hill, people like Ro Khanna, view this.
Also, it shines a light back on the regulators too, right? Because these banks, a bank above $50 billion, right, is supposed to have what we call a living will after the 2009 financial crisis. Yeah. They have to have a wind down resolution plan. Well, First Republic had one of those at the end of last year that says, yeah, we look at our business model and there won't be, if something were to happen, there would not be any kind of chaos. We would be able to dismantle this bank with no problem.
So First Republic had that little promise and they didn't follow through. What makes anyone think Chase, J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, or Citigroup are also being honest to God, good scouts, Boy Scouts, saying, yeah, we promise we won't ever screw up. We won't make the same mistake again.
And which obviously wasn't true. So like some of these banks, they have these living wills, but we still had three major banks go down. And look at the size of those banks. If you look at bank failures this year, those three big bank failures, $549 billion in total assets.
By the way, those three banks, all in 1 month. All in 1 month.
All 25 of the biggest bank failures in 2008 was less than that. So this is already more valuable in terms of assets in the bank failures this year than in 2008.
Wow. Come back soon. I had many more questions.
Yeah, come back soon. Yeah, to watch her get real excited about big banks. And by the way, I saw in the live stream chat, people are saying, yeah, she's getting really, really excited about big banks. Really excited. But hold on, folks. It gets even worse. Because I want to bring up this video, just a short 30 seconds. Because after all, let's really talk about, if J.P. Morgan getting bigger by buying First. Again, it's important that we really scrutinize about how J.P. Morgan is buying. Oops. Oh my goodness. Buying all these banks, so I would be concerned, folks. So let's go ahead and pull this video up here for all of us to enjoy.
I think the other question for what Congress is going to do here is what this looks like with J.P. Morgan. I mean, it's the nation's biggest bank. They just got bigger with this. Is this going to increase scrutiny from progressives in your view?
Yeah, I mean, progressives, if you spend any time on Twitter, progressives are already unhappy about the size of J.P. Morgan. Look, I think you had to put out this fire right away, and it does feel like a very reasonable resolution to me. But I think that those that are concerned about concentration in the financial sector, concentration in banks, are going to take a hard look at what happened this morning and probably criticize it.
As we should, because what could possibly ever go wrong?